Hi everyone, so I'm really excited to share one of Notion's latest feature, which is database automation. So I've been waiting for months now, just knowing that it will be coming eventually, and then finally getting it yesterday. So I've been planning on playing around it and kind of get a feel of what is possible, what's not possible. And then so for today, I'm going to showcase some of the things that I've learned so far. So mind you that it's still very early, but I just want to kind of showcase you that how I actually integrate into my current client's workflow. So, and then some of the quirks that I found. So I've written this article here. So some of the things that I noticed. So if you would like to read, you can find the description below. But if not, then we can go through this video, just kind of show you some of the things that I found. Projects. So this is basically where I kind of keep tracks of all my status. So we have new clients, lead, meeting book, draft design, proposal send, confirm, archive. So if you're not, even though don't yet, I'm actually a Notion consultant. So this is actually my workflows of how I keep track of all my clients. So here, this is where you can see the buttons here. So create and view automations. And then you can see I already created quite a lot of automations here for each different stages. So I'm going to kind of explain on how each of them works and what I've created. But for now, maybe one thing is I can click into here, learn about automations. And then here, Notion kind of explains some of the basic things from here. So improve your efficiency by automating the most tedious parts of your work. Create a database automations, edit pages in different database, add actions. What other things is said? Oh yeah, I think one thing I want to mention is that, so Notion did mention here, so database automations are only available for customers on paid plans. So if you're actually using a free plan, so I think you can only use it to create Slack notification automation, and then use automations that included in templates. So I believe if someone already created templates with automation, right, then you should be able to use it. So I'm not too clear on exactly, I haven't tried yet, but because I'm using on paid plan. So yeah, that's one thing to note. Another one is quite significant is that, so it's quite often that you will share people like guest access, right? So I'll share this access to my guests. So for example, in this case, right, for this database, so let me just go to the database now. Struggling to click it properly. So for this project's database, I actually share it to my another dummy account here. It's called Robot. So this robot here actually has full access. But one thing to mind is that it cannot actually edit or change the automations, because anything that's shared via guests cannot have access to change it. So from my understanding is that this is actually a mindful choice from Notion side, is that they would like to avoid accidental changes, or because this is so powerful, you wouldn't want it for guests to have it despite having full access. So what they do is that you need to share as members to have access to automations, which in that case there will be charges for them. So that's kind of how Notion kind of juggle around it. So yeah, so now that's a way. So let me just kind of go through the automation now, just kind of let you have a nice sense of idea of what you can do. So on the most basic level, it's very similar to the buttons. So if you've used Notion buttons before, you kind of get a sense of once you click the button, you'll automatically kind of create tasks, or automatically update dates, or change status, stuff like that. So but in this time, it changes based on what you do inside the database itself, instead of a button. So everything that you make changes, it can be the button. So one thing to know is that, so for example, if I create a new project here, so new project, so you cannot set automations for status here. I try to set so once the status go to new, it will create a new task or something like that, but it doesn't work because creating doesn't equals to trigger. So let me just kind of go through what Notion meant by here. So new automation. So here it kind of describes, right? So for pages in projects, so when any of these occur, so add a trigger, do this. So essentially when you make some change, when you make a changes, then something will happen. So maybe an example here, I can add trigger. Yeah, so for example, when you move it to lead, so when I move from here to here, you can make something happen. For example, I select this, right? And then done. So when the status is set to lead, and I can add action, it can be any actions. For example, I can change the name, change it to XYZ, for example. Let me just do it now. I just click create. So you can see the automation is here, and then I move it here, right? You can see this name being changed. It takes a while, maybe 5 seconds normally, or 10 seconds. Now you can see it's being changed now to XYZ. So yeah, this is kind of how the automation can work. And then once you go inside again, you can kind of pause the automation, or you can kind of delete it. So another thing to note is that for the status here, so when this occurs, right, for the trigger, So it does not work on, it can work on all the properties except formulas and rollup. So there are some use cases that might be helpful, but for now it doesn't work. So just to be mindful of that. And then let me just delete this now. So delete this. And then another thing is that you can actually select the automations based on the views that you have. I believe if I select it earlier, if I go to development, I think I should be able to select it for pages in. So if I select here, you can kind of see qualification, development, delivered. So these are all the different views that I have. So the idea is that you can kind of avoid like automations like for triggering from multiple like status tasks like that. So you can just create it based on specific views. So it's not safer like when you do it that way. So it doesn't like trigger like accidentally stuff like that. So yeah, that's another thing to know that I've realized. And then, okay, maybe I'll just create a new one. So new project. So once I move it to lead, so what would happen is that you actually automatically create a new task here. So you can see it's actually creating tasks here. So what's happening here is that I have actually set up automation so that to automatically create new tasks. So lead start date. So here you can see when the state is set to lead, and I'll set the lead date to now, and then also creating these two tasks here. So research client industry, and then link it to this project, and then for schedule meeting, and then link this to project. So if you use the buttons before, you'll be very familiar with this, since it's basically like almost the same interface. So, and another thing I use for this is that you can actually notice that if you notice I create a lot of different dates here. I have a lead date, qualification date, confirm date, planning date, development, testing, hypercare, delivered. So previously for Notions, like when you move it from status to status, right? People always ask like, oh, can you actually, Notion actually keep track of the dates? Because a lot of times we use like created date that always change, like not created date, the last edited date, which is never helpful. For example, when you move something to done, right? You want to kind of track it forever there, kind of know like when it's done. So in this case, now that we have this automation, what you can do is that I'll just move it to draft design. You can kind of see it should update the qualification date here. Just give it a few seconds. So you can see once I move it to draft design, you create more new tasks again. I'm not sure, is it proposal sent? I think it should be meeting book then. Let me kind of see. I kind of forgot what's the trigger for this one. Okay, yeah. So once I move it to meeting book, you kind of see like there's a qualification date. So if I move it to confirm, you'll see like, so I have a filter just to move it to another view. But I can see this should update the confirm date as well. Unless it's not, which probably I didn't set up properly. Kind of check first. So, okay, I don't think I've set it up. But yeah, you kind of get the idea. Like, so once you move it from status to status, it just automatically updates the date for you. So find this extremely helpful. Another one you can see already here is that I already automatically create tasks here. Like every time I have a new move it to different stages, right? You have just kind of create a task for me. So this is helpful as well. And another thing I did as well is, let me do another new project again. So if you notice here, when I create a new project, I have an add a system here, add an invoice. So what I'm doing is that every time, so system basically is actually another database. So this is where I kind of put my client's Notion system in there. So what happens is that if I move it to draft design, so it automatically just create a system for me. So we can just wait for a few seconds. That should happen. Hopefully it happens. Yeah, you can see that the system is being created. So this is kind of how normally I kind of go to here. So this is where I have my client system here. So just like an easy access. And then if I go to proposal sends, you just create, I assume like create an invoice here for me. So it should create it. You can see there's invoice here, not started. You kind of see the status, you can put the amount, stuff like that. So yeah, this is kind of how we can use the automations. So there are a lot of things that I'm still trying to figure out. But so far, this is what I've learned, and I hope you enjoy it. And just you can share like what you have found as well. That will be helpful for you. Thank you.